All right, welcome to Back to Life Pain to Freedom series, part two. Today, I want to share with you my personal story and show you some of the tools that I used to overcome my own issues with recurring back pain. Let's go. So, just a quick recap. In video number one, we talked about the two biggest low back pain mistakes. And mistake number one was not eliminating your pain triggers. And we talked about how eliminating pain triggers helps with both inflammation and helps with the pain that is generated from your nervous system. So, whichever source of pain you have, the technique of avoiding pain triggers helps with both of those. And then number two, we talked about reliance on passive treatments. Okay. It's the opposite of number one. Too many people rely on passive treatments where they lay down and they have some sort of a healthcare professional perform a treatment on them. And basically, they don't do enough. They don't take enough of an active role in their own recovery. And situations like this, while you may get some short term relief, ultimately it leaves you dependent on someone like me or another healthcare professional long term for your well being. So that was what we did in video number one. Let's get on to video number two. So, the whole purpose of avoiding your pain triggers is to allow your low back to calm down. And what typically happens with a lot of people, I'd say with most people, is we move too much in the lumbar spine, in your low back. Too much of our movement is generated from your low back, okay? And what happens is any inflammation that you have, any nervous system sensitivity that you have in that area continually gets re-aggravated as we initiate and perform movements from the low back. So when I suggest limiting your pain triggers and moving with a neutral spine, I'm talking about moving with a neutral lumbar spine. So you might be thinking, okay, so here we have another healthcare person telling me that I need to move less, I need to move like a robot, I need to move like I'm stiff. Not so. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up mobility. We're going to improve mobility in other areas. We're going to work on increasing mobility in your thoracic spine, which is your upper back, and we're going to increase mobility in your hips. Okay. So we're actually increasing mobility in two places, your thoracic spine and your hips, while we're limiting mobility in one area, in your lumbar spine. So you're actually getting a net gain in mobility. You're picking up mobility in two places. You're limiting mobility in one place. That one place where you're limiting mobility, you're allowing it to calm down. You're allowing it to heal. And the beautiful thing is once it heals, you can actually get a little more aggressive with your movements in the lumbar spine if you want to. So the next technique that is crucial to your low back recovery is learning to brace your abdominals, okay? It's incredible how many people don't know how to do this, and that's okay. It's not their fault, but this is something that it's so important, but it's so often missed. Your spine is built to resist forces from all directions. Let's say hypothetically you have a force pressing down on your spine. You need your muscles to contract to prevent your spine from buckling, okay? All the muscles leaving your spine, you want to brace these muscles. You want to push them out like this, pushing your muscles out. What that does is it stabilizes your spine and prevents it from buckling, okay? That's very important. A lot of people are performing movements without bracing their abdominal muscles, and it's allowing a lot of small movements in your lumbar spine that's generating the pain. So by learning to brace your abdominals, you're creating this protective belt around your spine, and it can absolutely change the way you move. It can give you the confidence to perform so many daily movements without worrying about your spine being injured or being damaged. And while it takes some effort up front to learn how to brace, you get to where you're not even thinking about it anymore. And it's very, very effective. So it's one of the early things that I like to teach people. The third technique that I used for myself and for my clients is core stabilization training, training your core to resist forces from 3 different planes of motion. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Plane of motion number 1, your spine has to be able to resist forces coming from each side. Okay, that's plane number 1. Plane number 2, your spine has to be able to resist forces coming from the front and the back. Plane number 3, your spine has to be able to resist rotational forces. Any forces pressing your spine in a rotational direction, you have to be able to resist those forces. So resisting forces from the side, resisting forces from the front and the back, and resisting rotational forces. If you can train your core to resist movements in those 3 planes of motion, you are rock solid. You can do pretty much whatever you want within reason, and you can count on your spine staying firm, staying solid, and feeling good. Another technique that I used for myself and I use for my clients is targeted glute strengthening your butt muscles. Okay. We talked about how too much of our movement comes from the low back. Okay. Too much movement, too much strain, and never gets a chance to calm down. With targeted glute strengthening, we are strengthening these big, strong muscles in your hips. And what that does is it builds powerful hips. It allows you to generate movement from your hips. When you generate movement from your hips, you're putting less strain on your low back. When you put less strain on your low back, you're allowing it to recover. You're allowing it to calm down. It can absolutely change the way you move and the way you feel for the rest of your life. So we use targeted techniques to strengthen your glutes in 3 planes of motion. It takes pressure off of your low back, and it also improves your posture. It improves the way that you carry yourself when you're doing things. It allows you to pick things up without straining your low back. It allows you to carry things. It's just a game changer. So with my own low back pain story, my low back pain started at the age of 16 playing tennis. I had a tennis serve that was putting my low back in a bad position, and it triggered a lot of pain early on. Age 16 is way too young to be having severe low back pain, but that's where I was. And this continued. I had recurrent episodes of low back pain from age 16 all the way to age 38. Okay. And this was just a recurring cycle of me resting too much and trying to let it heal without really doing anything. And then I would think it was better. And then I would try to do too much too quickly, and I would re-aggravate it. When I re-aggravated it, I would get frustrated. I would get discouraged. So I would stop and I would rest it again and do too little. I just went back and forth for years. It wasn't until I finally, basically until I started to practice what I preach to my clients, where I had to learn my pain triggers. I had to learn to eliminate my pain triggers. And I had to learn to slowly build up my core while avoiding those pain triggers. And it took a little bit of humility to get through the process. I had some ups and downs there. I remember one time in particular, I lifted a pan of muffins up into the stove or up into the oven, and my low back spasmed lifting a pan of muffins. And it was just very, very discouraging. But I learned when I had episodes of back spasms, I learned to stop whatever I was doing immediately. And I would rest a little bit, and then I would quickly initiate a walking program. And by forcing myself to walk, I allowed these little setbacks to just remain little setbacks instead of becoming these big episodes. My low point with low back pain, I would say, was I think it was age 37 or 38. I was working out in my shed outside in my gym, and I was doing deadlifts, and I herniated my lumbar disc, and I dropped. I knew it when I did it, and I dropped to the ground. I fell to my knees, and it was freezing cold outside, and I had to crawl on hands and knees, all fours. I had to crawl into my house through the freezing cold. It was just an absolute nightmare, and it took me so long to recover from it. And it was discouraging. It was disheartening. I couldn't do anything. I was walking around. I was trying to do my job with a TENS unit on my back, and my patients could see that I wasn't moving well, and it was just not a good time. So I would say that was the low point of my low back pain journey, and that's when I knew I needed to change the way I was doing things, and that's basically when I really started doing what I'm promoting right now. And today I'm in a really good place. I'm in my low at the time of recording this video. I'm in my early 40s, and I have recovered from my disc herniation. I can do kettlebell training. I love training with kettlebells. I do it several times a week. I've gotten back into some light running, even though I don't enjoy it. I do it to try to keep to keep things under control. I get to jump on the trampoline with my kids. I can wrestle with my son. I can just do all sorts of things now. I play a little bit of golf. I'm horrendous at golf, but I love it. So yeah, some good stuff. I mean, so all things that 4 or 5 years ago I never thought. I was worried I wouldn't be able to do these things ever again, and I can. And so I firmly believe I've experienced firsthand what intelligent back rehab can do for your life. I've seen it with my clients, and I've experienced it personally, and so that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about this. So there is hope. Whatever you're dealing with right now, there is hope. In video number 3 of this series coming up next, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the exact strategies that I used to take control of my low back pain and ultimately to take control of my life. So I look forward to sharing that with you. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think it can really change your life if you take a look at some of the techniques that I use. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you for watching.